Hey there, guys. So today we're going to take notes about changes in matter. So go ahead and update your table of contents, changes in matter. Mine is going to be on page 10. If it's on a different page for you, that's okay. So, and any time that during this video you need to pause, feel free to pause. That's not a big deal. So let's turn to that page, and I'm going to title it 10, and then changes in matter. And what I'm writing, you should be writing as well. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we see changes in matter based on physical change. So the physical change or chemical change. So we've talked about physical properties. We haven't talked about chemical properties yet. Now, physical properties are anything we can observe or measure. Chemical properties are just properties that you observe when a chemical change appears. Okay, so that's the biggest difference. You can only see a chemical property as chemical change is happening. So, we're gonna divide this up like this, and I'm gonna put up here physical change. And over here, I'm going to put chemical change. Again, a chemical property is just a property that we observe during a chemical change. Now, to kind of define these and think about these and knowing and trying to understand the difference, okay, the biggest difference is that in a physical change, you could have a different form. Okay, but no new substance. And I'm going to go ahead and really bold no new substance. In a chemical change, okay, we have a new substance form. So you're getting something completely different than the matter that you had before. So I'm going to underline new is the word we should think of. Forms. Okay, so let's talk about examples of this. So an example of a chemical change. Let's think about a cookie. Now, don't make fun of me about my cookie. This is my cookie. I'm going to add some chocolate chips. Oh yeah, that's definitely looks like a cookie. Okay, so we have a cookie. And an example of a physical change or the cookie changing physically is by crumbling the cookie. So we can just put cookie crumbling. We didn't form a new substance. This is still a cookie, but we have basically it in pieces now. So it changed the shape, but it's still a cookie. It's just now cookie crumbs. Okay, another example is changing the state of matter. So let's say we have an ice cube here. So I'm going to put ice, and it goes from being a solid to a liquid. Okay. Now, when it changed state, this ice is still H2O, and after the change occurred, it's still H2O. Okay, so we didn't change its chemical formula. We didn't create a new substance. We just changed the look of the substance. And the same can be said when liquid then goes into gas. So I'm just going to make gas as in like this. So water can evaporate into a gas form and it's still water. Okay, so it's a physical change. You didn't change what it was. Another example might be a pencil. So this is my rendition of a pencil snapping in half. The pencil is still a pencil. Let's see. Make that a little bit prettier. But it has changed its shape. It does not change what it is. Okay, so we have a pencil breaking in half. We could put a paper tearing, or we can think about solubility. Okay, so if I have a cup of water, and here's my water. So this is H2O. And then I go in and I add sugar. So similar to the lab that we did. So this is sugar. When it goes into the water, it's going to dissolve. So I'm going to put dissolving sugar. Now the sugar is still going to have its chemical formula even though it's being dissolved. And we could actually separate these two things. We could separate it by boiling the water because they both have different boiling points, okay, and getting rid of the boiling or the water completely. And what would be left behind would be the sugar. You'd find sugar crystals lining this cup if the cup were able to boil. Okay, so we know that dissolving or solubility is a physical property. And so when something dissolves, it does not change its chemical formula or its makeup. All right, let's talk about chemical change. So a chemical change, one example might be a log. So this is my log here. Make a couple of them. And then fire, okay? And so we are burning this log, okay? And so this is just fire. And then at the end, after you're done burning, what you would notice is that you would have ash. Color this in, and I'm going to call this ash. You have a different substance. It is no longer that wood that you had before. Okay, it mixed with the oxygen in the air to create ash. Okay, another one would be an example of maybe an egg frying. Now, one way you can tell that a chemical change is occurring, and I'm going to go ahead and put my egg like this, and then over here is that you're going to see color change. So think about an egg frying. When an egg yolk is in the pan, okay, so frying an egg, you can smell that the egg is cooking, but also the what is this called? This is the yolk and this is the egg whites. The egg whites are pretty much clear. So we see a color change occur. And that is one way that we can tell a chemical change has occurred. So one is smelling. So you can smell that it's happening. You can smell the change. But then you can also see the color change. All right, so then baking a cake. Okay, when you're looking at baking a cake, think about the things you put in the mixture. When you bake a cake, you can't easily separate after the cake is made. You can't easily separate the different components of a cake, okay, back into what they originally were. Also, when you bake a cake, you smell it baking. Okay, and so it's going to be a chemical change. So I'm going to put baking a cake. And one more example is a rusty nail. Okay, so rust. Okay, this is a nail. When exposed to water and oxygen, okay, we form a new substance, that orangey stuff that happens when a nail rusts. So I'm going to go ahead and color it in. Right? And so because a new substance forms, we see a color change on the nail. We know it's a chemical change. Another example of being able to tell if it's a physical or chemical change would be if you see heat. Okay, so heat is an example because now you're seeing energy. Okay, you see energy change. So we went from seeing this wooden logs here having chemical energy because it's in the form of chemical bonds, to now we see that it's burning. Those chemical bonds are being broken, and we see the fire. So if you see fire, you smell something, you see a color change, sometimes bubbles. You just have to make sure that it's not about bubbles because of boiling, going from a liquid to gas, you will have a chemical change. If you're just changing form, but not a new substance, you have a physical change. All right, my friends, that is it.